happening, guys? You never know when it's all gonna end. So before this new moon, I'm gonna, we're just gonna riff for the next 20 minutes. I have a cigarette. I've been gorging on a bunch of food before the next adventure to wherever we're headed. I'm just going north. An alien just popped up right in front of my face. It just beamed out of the ether into this density because the energy's so high right now. And said it doesn't want me to talk about it. It wants me to manifest things with you. So if you guys have any spiritual wealth that you could donate a little bit just to maybe ask the good God above to help Casey get what he needs. My issue, and I swear to God, I'm talking about 13 years old, I got a nuclear on Call of Duty. On, I think it's cargo with all the shipping containers on Black Ops 2. And I had a golden Remington. And my mother was upstairs reading Harry Potter. The kids, one time we had a big play date when you're 13, but it was like an arranged hangout. So there was like 5 or 6 kids over, and the biggest guy there, it was like 4 or 5 of us that were 5'2". I still had long hair. All of us had like thrift store clothes, and the one big guy, like obviously he's like 6 foot, huge beefy guy, kept urging us to get into the woods to build a fort. He's like, come on, and none of us went. Eventually he like got us to the edge of the tree line, and I'm pretty sure I carried all the pallets and nobody else would. But I'm like, if we're gonna do it, let's do it. You know, because I'm the old man of the group, I'm the wisest. So every time we go places, I'm just sitting there enjoying everything and listening to everybody and just paying attention. And none of them will do anything. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. So I stacked up all the pallets and I dragged them, even though I had weak arms, because I never did any push-ups back then. 2. Mom took away my Xbox because I was on it 24/7. I wasn't going to school. I got mad and I went into the kitchen and I poured out all of her wine on the ground and all the milk on the ground and threw a temper tantrum, and then went and tried to jump off a bridge, and the police caught me, and the whole town heard on the police scanner, Casey jumped off a bridge. So they hospitalized me, and then somehow we wound up in the birthplace of the man who founded Mormonism. And people just showed up at my house. Delegates from a Irish family that has 1 kid in every zodiac, and they're all Christian and homeschooled, 6 foot tall, blue eyes, at my age, at 14, 13. Perfect musicians, able to do backflips. So that pushed me to work really hard to outperform them, because I was sick and tired of not getting the respect that they got naturally. They would spit at me, and then the girls would hike up their pants to show their asses off to somebody younger than me that was 6 foot tall. So I worked out, made music every day, looked up YouTube videos on how to talk to girls and how social interactions work. I would watch John Mulaney's New in Town every morning, and I would recite it word for word in my head. And then on the way to school, and in school, I would practice the jokes. I was making girls laugh. Girls were starting to like me. I was making out with girls. But I was crazy, right? I did acid a couple times. Eventually, Went to the Big E, had a big spiritual experience where I went deep in my mind, and a door opened and there was a little buzzing like in the Truman Show elevator where he steps in and sees all the people behind the scenes and they're like, shut that, shut that. And one of the like little workers back there was like, Casey, the lizard people are gonna fuck up your day. And then as soon as that happened, going 60 miles an hour through Massachusetts, some punk kid slammed on the window right above my head. Probably broke their hand if their hand was real. And I'm on acid, so I'm thinking that the car tire just exploded. And I'm in a car with 2 other kids on acid and one autistic Christian kid that would have taken us all home if he knew that we were on drugs. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out, do they know that the car tire exploded? I look over, my friend Sam is eating a water bottle sideways, like making the noise, and I start crying. I start bawling my eyes out. He's like, I'm like, I'm fine, man. He's like, okay. How we didn't know is beyond me. We get to the Big E, and I'm stealing sunglasses, and I'm having Sam as lookout. I'm just shoving as many seeing how much I can steal. And then I turn around and look directly at the sun, and then it opens up. And then a voice in my head says, that's everything. That's the infinite. That's everything everywhere all at once. And this is just a small little condensed version of it, so that infinite can, like a video game, just like a dollhouse, you can enjoy it. And then I turn around, I just walk into a store and I steal a cowboy hat and a jacket that looks a lot like this. And then just walk up and tell the guy. I walked up and told the Christian kid that I stole. I was like, I stole this. He was like, well, go fucking put it back. So I'm like, okay. So I go walk up to the guy from Massachusetts. And I'm like, hey man, I stole this. He's like, what the fuck? I was trying to like bond with him. And then there was a magic horse I wanted to see. There was a magic horse enclosure. Come see, pay $5 to come see this magic horse, and then you go in through this maze to get to this magic horse. And then it's just a pony, a tiny miniature horse in a box that barely fits it, so he has to fit sideways, and he's just shut the fuck up! They're acting up because there's a lot of them. When it's just one, he'll shut up. That's why I'm trying to get some donations to get myself a BB gun that I can bean one in the fucking back. You heard? I don't know who I am anymore, but listen. It's a miniature horse in this tiny dark room, and the horse is just like trapped in a little box staring at the wall. And I walk out and they're like, what was it? And I was like, there's nothing special going on in there. And I don't remember how I got home. Another time I did acid was right before a veterans memorial breakfast, where it's all veterans in this tiny little library. And I'm on acid, and my friend Sam has the coffee, and I have the decaf, and we're walking around filling up people's coffee. And everybody's trying to get the coffee from Sam. And I think they're talking to me. So I'm just pushing my way past Sam and pouring decaf in these old veterans cups. And they're looking at me like, and I just like walk right, I say nothing and walk right past them. Eventually, I get on the piano and I start playing and everybody applauds me. And I'm just like on acid, fucking around with the keys, making weird sounds. And then when I get up, everybody applauds. So I don't know if I played well. I'm sure I played something. Last time I did acid was at the Hermitage Club, which is the most expensive ski resort in New England. And Cheap Trick was playing. and I went out, and they kept throwing a pick at me. It was like flying right here, and I would reach over here to grab it. So everybody was like, they threw like 6 picks at me, and I missed every time, and someone else picked them up and just like looked at me like, what are you gonna do about it? But there was this big black security guard, bald, just watching over me, like trying to make sure I'm okay. And then I went back in, immediately fell face first in the grease trap, which is when you empty all the grease into the mop bucket to go throw it out. I face planted, took it, and slowly found my way through the maze to the bottom to pour it out. And on the way, there's the big manager's name was Tom, and he was just running in circles in the back room, like freaking out about nothing, just like angry and hitting the pans and freaking out. And then he looked at me and was like, just freaking out. Like, I was like, what are you doing, bro? And went to go out, dumped the grease trap, smoked a cigarette, came back in, and passed Cheap Trick on the way. And now I know that we were all heightened senses because we were all on drugs. And that's what I was feeling. It's like they walked by and I saw like a little zip file hit my brain of what it was like to be a touring rock band in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Like I just like downloaded their entire life, which has kind of shaped my perspective now that I'm kind of like spiritually overseeing. I can name 10 Irish artists right now that I have relationships with, that the vibes come into my head and then it goes out to the people. Came home, my dad had ripped all my door off the hinges because I had to speak to him. I had to hang out with him. He's not going to let me lock myself in a room and isolate and watch Minecraft videos, even though that's what I like. That's what makes me feel safe. So I was like, I was on acid. So, and I have hiccups, so I'm like, so I'm like, can I have my door back, please? And then he just snapped. He fought. He was dragging me by the legs, screaming, get the fuck out of my house. He came at me with a hammer like this. So when you're on acid, he said that he lifted the hammer up because I used it and I smacked something a couple days ago when I was mad. So he was like, but you can, he has a hammer like right in your face, and then something freezes him, like he's frozen in place. So I had no boots on, just socks and pajamas, no coat. I grabbed my Xbox and my TV, and it was like the middle of March, on top of a mountain, freezing, big wind in my face. Ground is freezing. I walked my TV, and I just walked him as far as I could to the next house, and then my dad's flying by me in his car, just staring at me like this, and speeding by, almost hitting me, and I'm just like walking on acid, get to this guy's house. It's an old man with cancer. He's got the hookup machine. He can't speak at all. And I'm just like, hey, I had a problem with my family. I need to use the phone to call my mom for a ride. And he doesn't say anything. He doesn't like move me out of the way. He doesn't like stop me. So I just go in. My hands are purple. I can't move them. And I'm fixing this guy's landline, trying to find a way to call my mom. My dad comes bursting in screaming. He's dying of a heart attack. He just collapses on this guy's house. He like broke in and collapsed. So I get him back in the car. We drive back to the place, to the other house, and I have to call the police to guide them all the way up through these small mountains all the way here. And my mom shows up because he had already left her a message with the cavalry. And then they took my dad, stayed the night, went back to my aunt's, played some Grand Theft Auto, and I was on the bike doing tricks on the motorcycle, the dirt bike, doing flips, feeling what it was like to fly. And then DCF shows up. I could feel the government show up before they got there. I knew the government was there before they got there. And then she showed up, and I knew it was my time to go, so I got in. And then it was just crying children, I read the whole Game of Thrones series in a shelter program where the staff members were all named after ancient Irish kings and gods, and they would hug me when I'd freak out crying. I would astral project all night, and then I'd have to force myself back into my body, surrounded by crying children whose parents had failed and the government had failed, and it was just me just making jokes and having a good time and doing push-ups on acid, barely functioning, but my mind doesn't work. I'm reading Game of Thrones and escaping into Westeros. I'm identifying with the character that it turns out is based off of Brian Boru, Robert Baratheon, the guy with the green eyes that spent his whole life fighting to free his people from the clutches of the evil dragon people that invaded, and now Vikings, Spartans, crackheads, artificial intelligence, aliens. So we're here. You heard me? Eventually there was a kid named Noah that was just freaking out, jerking off too much in the room, and he'd jump off the bed and just stare at me, and he'd like have these manic attacks. He's like 12. No, I think he was 10. He was young. He was like he shouldn't have been in there. He should have been in like a daycare system, but they didn't have room. So he was with us, and he was in my room. It's a small, it's a Vermont house. But eventually it got too much. I snapped, and I picked the kid up, and I whipped him at the wall. He came at me. I punched him in the face, knocked him like flat back. Then I looked at him, and then I broke his expensive glasses in half, and then I walked away. So I got kicked out. Other notable events of that time, there was a staff member that had a crush on my father and me. Because my dad's Gary the Legend. He's got the vibe. He's a Leo, Libra, born on the 10th, 3 life path. I'm a Sagittarius, Aquarius, born on the 11th, 33 life path. He's the perfect, entertaining king, and I'm the master teacher, exalted ancient god incarnate, which means I'm the most humble, compassionate person. I don't have the ego. I have arrogance because I've experienced, but it doesn't hurt me when people say mean things or judge me, because I'm just building Legos like I did with my father alone on top of the mountain. Feel me? So I went into the retreat. I got schizoaffective because I lied about the acid. So they gave me schizoaffective, then they gave me, he was just on acid. But I got savant syndrome, then they took out savant syndrome because if that registers in the DSM, Chinese and other government organizations were taking American children and trying to turn them into Manchurian candidates, MK Ultra them, it would pop up. Members of the government did approach me as a child in those programs. So I'm sure now that I know not all my thoughts are my own, I'm sure I was bred for this. Like I was up in a room playing XCOM, which is all the kids are downstairs crying. I'm upstairs right in the attic in the little tiny peephole looking out the window with all the pretty girls walking by, and I'm playing a game about how to systematically use soldiers to attack aliens that come in and infiltrate, as I'm watching over tons of kids. And I've just watched YouTube videos. I watched RSD, I watched Owen Cook, I watched Evolution Daily, I watched Elliot Holst. Eventually I went to college and was roommates, and now a very good friend of mine is Elliot Holst's nephew, randomly by chance in this random tiny little program way deep in the mountains that I went to. Met my childhood heroes. I've taught leaders. I've developed the skill. Like I went through high school and picked up a bunch of lonely kids and built a friend group and started hosting events, and then we became the popular ones. Like all the girls that rejected me at the start of the journey now liked me and did all this, and then I went across the world. I went across the country, learned all these skills. I've taught them to leaders. I humbled all the kids that are the best in Vermont, and now I'm just here.